Now I promised I was going to get this video done this month, so I'm going to keep my word and knock this video out. So, if you read the title, you already know. This is my top 10 favorite mainline Gundams. And as you know, every time I do a video like this, I have rules, so let me tell you what the rules are of this list. Now, when I say main Gundams, I mean the main Gundams that the main protagonist uses. I'm going to use Gundam Wing as an example because it's just the easiest series to get my point across. So the main protagonist is Hero Yui. So that means the only Gundams that I could put on this list are the Gundams that Hero actually piloted. So that means no Death Sight, no Heavy Arms, no Sandrock, none of them. It has to be the ones that he's actually used. Now, the exception, Heavy Arms does not qualify because it was borrowed. Epion does not qualify because it was never marketed as the main protagonist Gundam. Even though it was Hero's Gundam first, it was never marketed as the main protagonist Gundam. Other than that, every other Gundam qualifies. Secondly, all Gundams mentioned must be featured in its own dedicated series. My fault, its own dedicated anime series to be specific. So none of the reading materials, none of the video games, no, how can I say it? No, it can't just be featured in a picture or image, not a remake or a revised variant of it. It has to actually be featured in the anime, movies, or OVA, excluding the Build Fighter series or any series like that. So Build Fighters, SD Timeline, none of those can be featured on this list. Lastly, only one Gundam per series. Now, let's get to the list. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of this data that I bring up is coming from an AI search, so some of this can be wrong. And I only bring that up because looking at the data that was populated, I can already tell from the first Gundam, there is a big glaring issue. So if I get anything wrong, leave it in the comments down below and I'll make sure to correct it in a future video. But the first one on this list is the Victory 2 Assault Gundam. And out of all the Gundams that I mentioned on this list, this is the only one I did not get to see in an anime form, only because I never finished Victory Gundam. So Victory Gundam is strictly here, mainly just based on looks, because the only time I ever got to see it was in video games. Looking at my AI notes, they say that this is the fastest Gundam that's on this list, which I heard that's true. I heard that the Victory 2 Gundam is actually pretty fast. Well, actually my fault. The Victory 2 Assault Gundam is actually pretty fast. The one issue that I have here is that they're saying that this is not the shortest Gundam on this list, which from my understanding, and again, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But from my understanding, the Victory series of Gundams is one of the shortest Gundams ever to be deployed. The Victory 2 Assault Gundam is definitely on this list at number 10, and it actually would be higher if I knew more about it outside of the research and using this Gundam in video games. Number 9, it feels so good to put this one in my top 10 because for the longest time with a list like this, I couldn't put it here. And that is the Kasei Gundam from Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway's Flash. Now, this is the tallest Gundam on this list, even though AI says otherwise, which is weird. And I'm only bringing this up to let y'all know, this is why you don't trust AI, because even AI gets things wrong. Looking at some of the armaments, it's equipped with a beam rifle, a beam saber, triple missiles, funnel missiles, a shield that can house various different weapon armaments at the tip, and Vulcan guns. Now, I will admit this is not my favorite version of this Gundam, but I've always liked this Gundam design since I was a little kid. And like I said earlier, I love the fact that I could finally put it in my top 10 because this is definitely one of my favorite mainline Gundams of all time. Now, I think this next one is going to be shocking for a lot of people because from all the Gundams that I can choose from Seed Destiny, I decided to go with this one because it's so particular. And at number 8, I chose the Sword Impulse Gundam from Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Destiny. Now, the Strike Freedom almost went out, but I just like the Sword Impulse design just a little bit better. I'm just cutting in to make this quick correction. I meant the Impulse Gundam Spec 2, not 2.0. So anytime I say 2.0, I mean Spec 2. Actually, I don't like really any other variant of the Impulse Gundam besides the 2.0 variant. So to clarify, the only Impulse Gundams that I like is the Impulse Gundam 2.0 and the Sword Impulse Gundam. That's it. But still, color does wonders, and that's why Sword Impulse Gundam is number 8. I also love some of the ways that the Sword Impulse is equipped. When you're looking at the beam boomerangs, which I thought was pretty cool, the anti-armor knives, the beam rifles, and one of my favorite weapons is the Excalibur. Now, this is not my favorite Gundam from the Seed franchise, but when you talk about the mainline Gundam series, there's a reason why I have 2 variants of the Sword Impulse Gundam in my display case. Now, number 7 can be flip-flopped around with number 6. And this is the one that the AI said is the shortest Gundam on my list, which I absolutely don't believe that. But coming from Mobile Fighter G Gundam, I gotta go with the Burning Gundam, or in Japan, the God Gundam. Now, AI says there's other Gundams on this list that's way more powerful. But me, I personally believe that the Burning Gundam is the most powerful Gundam on this list. Think about it. It channels emotions into power. It basically has a super mode. Not only does it have basic armaments with Vulcan guns, machine gun cannons, a beam saber sword, and its main weapon, the Burning Finger. It also has a bunch of techniques that I'm not going to bother to pronounce because some of these I can't even say. And this Gundam beat one of the most, in my personal opinion, most broken Gundams in the entire franchise history. This Gundam doesn't even need a beam rifle because it can basically shoot out by itself a Kamehameha wave. So now, don't get me wrong, the AI gave me other Gundams that they feel is more powerful, but off the list that they gave me, the Burning Gundam was the only Gundam to survive its last battle, where I think all the other Gundams that was on that list either were heavily damaged or was completely destroyed. So that should tell you something about its power. Number 6 comes from one of my favorite Gundam series of all time, which is Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. And the Gundam I chose from this series, which is actually my favorite Gundam from this series, which is the Gundam Barbatos Lupus. Probably one of the worst Gundams to pilot, but I just love this Gundam. Just a Gundam that brutalizes everything. Now, this is why I don't listen to AI, because they gave me 2 other Gundams that have the most armaments, but that doesn't make sense because there's this Gundam and one other Gundam that I believe has the most armament on this list. You know what? I'll name some off. You have the large railgun, the variable mace, the new longsword, the Valkyria Buster Sword, the armed rocket launcher, the 200mm arm gun, twin mace, and a sword mace. Wait a minute. Huh. I could have sworn they also used the mace. But whatever. Either way, this is one of my favorite Gundams on this list from one of my favorite franchises in all of Gundam. I haven't watched this series in over a decade as of now, but this series had probably one of my favorite Gundam series, series type of all time, at least one of them. And we have to go with After War Gundam X, which I've said it before on this channel. I would love for them to revisit this timeline, but as my favorite goes, it would have to be Gundam X. If it didn't have one major flaw, and that is the satellite cannon. The fact that its strongest weapon is reliant on a third-party source is a really, really humongous negative. And that's why the Gundam X is not my favorite one from the series. Actually, I have to go with the next one, which is the Gundam X Divider. Even though the Divider isn't as powerful as the satellite cannon, but at least it isn't reliant on a beam from the moon to get access to its strongest weapon. Its name comes from its main weapon, which is the Divider, which is a shield, but the shield can collapse so it can access its harmonica cannon. It also has a large beam sword, a beam machine gun, the breast Vulcan, it has access to a hyper bazooka, and the X Grenader. Again, I love the Gundam X series of Gundams, but to me, my favorite one from the main timeline has to be the Divider, because that flaw with using the satellite cannon to me is way too major. So yes, the Divider is my favorite gun. Well, actually, now I think about it, yeah, this is my favorite Gundam from this series. So yes, the Divider is my favorite Gundam out of the Gundam X series, at least for now. Number 4. Now, I don't know which Gundam has the most armaments on this list. Now, as you saw earlier, Barbatos has a lot, but I would say this one beats Barbatos, at least my opinion. And that is coming from the 8th MS team, which is one of my favorite Gundam series of all time. We're looking at the RX-79G Gundam Ground Type. I love this Gundam, or what I used to call it, the Gundam Grunt. And again, that's my personal title. But this is a Gundam that the common man can use. And that's why I love this Gundam. It's always been one of my favorites. I've always loved the design. And speaking of the armaments, if there's one thing I love about this Gundam, is that it has a big range of loadouts that can actually be utilized. Point out some of the armaments that you can equip it with. You have the parachute pack, you have the weapons container, you have a containers rack, you have a desert equipment. The weapons, you have a total of 4 different shields, you have a net gun, you have access to the Gundam hammer, which I didn't realize that, a rail cannon, rocket launcher, missile launcher, beam rifle, not beam cannon, 180mm cannon, 100mm machine gun, a beam saber, multi-launcher, Vulcan guns. Honestly, I think this actually beats out Barbatos with the loadouts. Or armaments, whatever you want to use. By far, one of my favorite Gundams of all time. Number 3, which AI claims this is the tallest Gundam on this list, which I highly doubt it. And it comes from Charged Counterattack, and that is the new Gundam. Now, the first time I saw Charged Counterattack, I was a kid. Spoiler alert. But when I watched this movie when I was young, and at the end, it freaked me out, not gonna lie. Don't know what happened to Amuro at the end. I mean, well, I think we all know, but the way he goes out always freaked me out. But the one thing I loved about this Gundam more than anything else was the funnels. It was my favorite weapon on this Gundam. Other armaments are the 60mm Vulcan gun, the beam saber, the spare beam saber, the beam rifle, the shield, the hyper bazooka. You also have the beam machine gun, the berm line launchers, which is basically an adhesive that is stored in the hands, which can be used to repair small cracks in a colony. You also got the dummy launchers, and it has a cycle frame cockpit, which I recommend you look up cycle frames because that's very important in the history of Gundam. I also love the color scheme of this Gundam. Now, going to my notes, and again, this is why you shouldn't listen to AI. It basically says that the new Gundam is the tallest on this list, which I highly doubt that's true. And it says it's the most powerful, which I definitely question that with Burning Gundam being on this list. But if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments down below. But now with New Gundam being at 3, now let's go to my last 2 favorite Gundams. So I want to quickly chime in at this part, just to let you know you're looking at the New Gundam right there. This is just a reminder and a PSA to let you know shorts are not dead, they're just on hiatus. I'm hoping to get back doing the next short video sometime after the summer. But this month I will be doing another live build, so make sure to go to the community tab here on YouTube and vote for the next Gundam you would like to see me build on my next live build. Also, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because looking at the subscriber count, I'm 3 subscribers away from the next milestone. And not only that, even on my Twitch channel, GD Wiz, go over there and follow, because I think I'm also 3 away from the first milestone. So make sure to subscribe and follow. And now let's go ahead and finish off this list of me going down my favorite Main Gundams, or I guess my top 10 favorite Main Gundams from various different Gundam anime franchises. Now for number 2, full transparency, this is another Gundam series I have not finished, but I did watch the episode that this Gundam debuted in, but that's not the reason why this Gundam is number 2. Coming from the Mobile Suit Gundam ZZ, we have the full armor Double Zeta Gundam. And the main reason why this Gundam is on this list is because this Gundam was my main in Gundam Battle Assault. And I've always stuck with this Gundam when I first played that game for the first time. This has always been one of my favorite Gundams. And if you watch any of my videos where I talk about the builds that I would like to see when it comes to model kits, this Gundam, particularly this variant, is always on that list. Going down the list of some of the armaments, it has a double beam rifle, a spray missile launcher, has both missile pods and micro missile pods, a waist high mega cannon, and its biggest weapon, the hyper mega cannon. This Gundam also has a transformation, but I think this variant can't access it because it's a full armor Gundam. But looking at my notes from AI, this is also listed as one of the most powerful Gundams that's on this list. Now, do I believe it is? You know, I think there's a better argument for this Gundam. I gotta do more research, but I think if you combine this with Judah, because if I remember right, I think Judo is one of the most powerful new types in Gundam history. So if you combine him with the Double Zeta Gundam, I think there's an argument there. But beyond that, this is one of my favorite Gundams on this list and one of my favorite Gundams of all time. Now, if you checked out this channel for any length of time, I think you know what the number 1 Gundam will be on this list. Now, I'll be honest, this could change in the future, but right now, going to Gundam Wing Endless Waltz, I have to go with the Wing Gundam Zero EW version. I remember watching the OVA for the first time. One of the coolest debut scenes I've ever seen for a Gundam. Now, in fairness, I will admit, this was not the greatest showing for this Gundam. Why do I say this? Well, I'm not going to answer that because I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say the reason why this has such a bad showing is it really only had one showing, and it really needed a lot more time to see how cool and how great this Gundam was. So that's the one thing I didn't like about it, that there wasn't enough scenes of the Wing Zero, and there should have been more. Don't get me wrong, the first battle was sick, but then after that, yeah, this definitely needed more time. So that's the one that I hate about the OVA. Now, looking at my AI notes, which I could believe this, it says the Wing Zero is not the fastest, but it's probably the most agile Gundam on this list because of its wings. Now, looking at the loadout, you have the shield, the machine cannon, beam sabers, and the strongest weapon, and the main weapon, the twin buster rifle. Now, in another continuity, this Gundam also has an additional weapon, and I also think it has a transformation, but we're sticking with the OVA, and in the OVA, that's the standard loadout, and there's no mention of a transformation. At the end of the day, this by far is one of the coolest Gundams, in my opinion. And I hope one day, because I'm sure you heard this announcement that they're going to go back and do another Gundam Wing project. Well, I hope that part of that project, you'll get more time to see the Wing Zero in battle, because there was definitely not enough time in the OVA, and I would have loved to see this Gundam to be featured in more combat situations. Now, you can read the manga, but again, I'm only talking about the anime and the OVA, and I hope that this comes back so it could be featured more in an animated setting. So that's it from the top 10 of the main Gundams from each series. Let me know what some of your favorite Gundams are, or other Gundams you feel that belongs on this list. Leave your comments down below, and who knows, if they're good enough, I may feature it in a future video. Oh yeah, before I head out, can you do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because we're about to hit the next milestone on this channel. And also, if you go over to Twitch at GDWiz and hit that follow button, because we're actually about to hit a milestone over on that page too. So make sure to hit that subscribe and follow, and I will see you in a future video. Have a good one.